We're kicking off today with WWE, who remain the top wrestling company in the world, with AEW and New Japan working hard to keep up, but all three promotions enjoy a deep talent pool of wrestling talent. TNA, MLW, and other promotions similarly have talented names on their rosters, but now sources are revealing how recent heat will lead to shaky situations between wrestlers and companies. Back in July, Stephanie Vaquer shocked the world by joining WWE the same day she left New Japan and CMLL, where she was a dual champion. Not only that, but this exit came 10 days after Vaquer lost the New Japan Strong Women's title to TBS champion Mercedes Mone in a winner-takes-all match at Forbidden Door. Tony Khan and officials were hopeful Vaquer would sign with AEW and were said to be upset at the near 16-year veteran for choosing WWE amid heavy AEW interest. Since then, the Dark Angel has debuted in NXT, leading to intense chatter about her journey, and now Fightful Select has learned more on how AEW hopes to prevent a repeat of this debacle. There is some belief that some wrestlers who work in AEW or co-promoted events that they will have to agree to not immediately go to WWE, unlike what Vaquer did. This non-compete clause would likely be a part of the event-specific contract and not a separate agreement in itself, though at this time such a clause has not been confirmed by AEW publicly. Vaquer made a good impression against Mone and Lady Frost in AEW according to sources, but some within the company could tell that WWE reached out to her shortly after Forbidden Door. While there was a feeling within AEW that Vaquer would probably go with WWE, many were reportedly surprised with how quickly things came together after the pay-per-view. AEW sources understood WWE wanted to sign a key talent that they were also interested in, but did not understand why they'd have Vaquer pull out of her CMLL dates. Because Vaquer was pulled from her CMLL dates, she never lost the company's women's title, but instead the title she held was unceremoniously vacated in a statement. Some of the criticism against the 31-year-old Vaquer diminished when she debuted at WWE live events in Mexico that same weekend, where she won both of her matches against Isla Dawn. Vaquer won on July 13th in Mexico City and the next night in Monterrey, and criticism of her diminished as she was at least still on the road after her controversial signing and CMLL exit. Do you believe AEW and NJPW should implement changes after how Stephanie Vaquer's situation was handled? Sound off in the comments section below. At Double or Nothing 2019, Jon Moxley debuted for AEW, which proved to be a game changer as he quickly became a top star with his intense performances and dedication. Moxley is a key figure in AEW who has linked a multi-year deal with the promotion, but before his All Elite arrival, he was also a big name in WWE, especially as part of The Shield before they split. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, Moxley is under contract until at least 2027, having signed a 5-year extension after working without a deal for months after All Out 2022. Moxley is currently the AEW World Champion and continues to wreak havoc in AEW alongside the Blackpool Combat Club, and we'll have to see how he's booked in the coming months. Are you pleased that Jon Moxley will remain with AEW for years to come? Do you think he would have seen success in WWE under Triple H or not? Let us know in the comments. After years of fan complaints about Vince McMahon's creative direction, everything changed earlier this year when the 79-year-old billionaire exited WWE, this time for good. With his father-in-law gone, Triple H has had full reign of creative, and for the most part, his handling of talent on Raw and Smackdown has been praised by fans. With that said, there are at least some talent that have gone completely underutilized under the game's watch, and here are just some examples of talent who could be doing much more. The LWO, for example, is pretty much only relevant when it relates to Rey Mysterio, in stark contrast to factions who get multiple segments weekly like the Bloodline or the Judgment Day. By comparison, the LWO pops up once a month for a few weeks, then vanishes, and the move to 2-hour Raws has only hurt them and the rest of the roster trying to get TV time. Rey Mysterio's faction has only been in feuds with the Judgment Day or Legado del Fantasma, and his LWO allies have mostly been bodies to fill out the numbers in segments. Rey had a brief angle with the New Day, but disappeared again after it despite not being hurt, a sign of just how much of an afterthought he and the LWO have become. Dragon Lee was recently teased with a fancy new video package, but if history is anything to go by, expect him to be lost in the shuffle with the rest of the LWO upon his return. Before Triple H officially took over WWE Creative, Omos was a featured star on TV under Vince McMahon, but has not come close to the same push since the change in leadership. The Giant could be booked against Bronson Reed or Braun Breaker, or could even go to NXT to face other stars, but the Nigerian star has instead gone unused on TV for months. It's ironic that in the 2023 draft, WWE made a point to say Omos was remaining a free agent to maximize his visibility on both brands, which has been the exact opposite of what has happened. Sitting on the sidelines isn't acceptable due to his spot as a special attraction, and Triple H must find a way to utilize Omos because stars his size don't come along every year. Like Omos, Shinsuke Nakamura hasn't been on WWE TV for months now, and while he wasn't seen as a potential world champion before his break, he still had an important role to play. The King of Strong Style routinely challenged for major gold, but became a fixture in the mid-card, though his feuds with Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes invigorated his stock. Unfortunately, his stock quickly dipped in 2024, and while he's been active at live events, including the recent tour of Japan and the UK, a return date for TV remains a mystery. One has to wonder why WWE can't use Nakamura on Smackdown instead of just live events, and he would make an exceptional challenger to US champion LA Knight with the right build. Unlike many on this list, Jade, Cargill, and Bianca Belair are regulars on TV and have been on nearly every show for the last 2 weeks, including a stop in NXT. They've beaten every team put against them, including the last Credible Threat and Damage Control, but it's in this that a major problem has arisen for the champs. WWE bookers have seemingly run out of viable opponents due to overexposure, and the champions seem to be heading for another multi-team match, this time at Crown Jewel. If so, they'll face lesser teams and Damage Control, and if they lose, they won't be pinned, and this will only restart the cycle of the Storm and the EST going after the titles again. The pairing is a way to keep Belair on screens and eventually lead to a feud with Cargill, though at this point, one has to wonder when WWE will eventually start building to their match. Many stars, such as the Unholy Union and Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, only appear in the tag division, and if they aren't the champions, then they aren't being used. Belair and Cargill, on the other hand, are single stars in a tag team and could easily have things to do other than their stranglehold over the women's tag team titles. The Cargill-Belair tag team experiment should end so that actual tag teams could have something to do, and the Pure Fusion Collective could have been made to be a force against the champs. Instead, the trio have lost so much that they have no credibility and wouldn't stand a chance against the champions, who have beaten every team there is. In June, Uncle Howdy returned to Raw with the Wyatt Six, and this incredibly hot act continued the work of Bray Wyatt as a creative force. The group started off with a program attacking Chad Gable and breaking up Alpha Academy, but with that angle finished, the group has vanished from our screens. In fact, Uncle Howdy himself has only had one singles match since returning to action, while Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, and Eric Rowan have competed in a few contests. Nikki Cross had a brief tussle with Ivy Nile during the faction's feud with Gable's American Maid, but it's hard to ignore how little the faction has done overall, especially as of late. The group appears to be targeting The Miz for turning on R-Truth, and while The Miz is an established name, going for him is like going for stale toast on breakfast. Sure, it's something for the faction to do, but it won't be anything major for the faction, as Miz is an established mid-carder with little to no upward momentum. The group has also teased a program with Karrion Kross and the Final Testament, another faction that, for all their smoke and mirrors, have achieved relatively little on Raw. Triple H should book the group against bigger opponents instead of heels on the lower end of the mid-card if the Wyatt Six wants to still be close to credible this time next year. This past weekend, Maple Leaf Pro made its triumphant return after years of being inactive, now under the leadership of former TNA president Scott D'Amore. 2 nights of shows were held at Windsor, Ontario's St. Clair College, and in the Night 2 main event, Konosuke Takeshita retained the AEW International title against TNA's Josh Alexander. After the match, Takeshita continued his attack on the walking weapon, but that's when Ricochet surprised fans with an appearance and brought the fight to Takeshita. Ricochet brawled with the Japanese star before sending him out of the ring and ended the show by picking up the AEW International title, signifying what he's coming for next. Ricochet was part of the 3-way match at Wrestle Dream that saw Takeshita win the gold from Will Ospreay, and recently said his issues with Takeshita are not over yet. With Full Gear next month, it's possible that these two will hook up within a matter of weeks for the gold, and will that match see a new champion crowned? Time will tell. It was back at March's big business event that Mercedes Moné officially debuted for AEW, and while she was introduced as a face, fans were not overly welcoming to the CEO. AEW has since changed course and turned the reigning TBS champion heel, but could it be time to take the former WWE superstar off of TV? On Busted Open Radio, TNA World Champion Nick Nemeth spoke about Moné's current role in AEW and suggested that pulling her from shows temporarily would be a benefit. Even if you cheered for them 9.5 out of 10, when wrestlers come back and make that return, catch you off guard, or you're excited about the return, it becomes a 10 out of 10. That really helps the product stay fresh for everybody. Nemeth feels that Mone would get a huge return pop, but that can only happen by taking her off of TV first. But as TBS and New Japan Strong Women's Champ, that's unlikely to happen. Not only does her title reigns mean a break from TV is unlikely, but Mone is currently feuding with Chris Statlander, so it remains to be seen how AEW will book her feud in the coming weeks. Do you believe Mercedes Mone should be pulled from AEW television? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Last month, the Netflix docuseries on Vince McMahon was released, spawning a lot of discussions about the ex-WWE chairman and his controversial actions during his time in power. The series delves into several sensitive issues, including Sable's sexual harassment case, and McMahon's attempts to defend himself against past allegations raised a lot of eyebrows. During his explanation of how his mind works, McMahon spoke of having computers in his brain, and when asked what one of the computers was thinking of in that moment, he said sex. During an episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored, veteran journalist and longtime WWE critic Phil Mushnick expressed his opinion on Vince McMahon, comparing him to Hannibal Lecter. Mushnick, known for his outspoken critiques of McMahon, shared that his view of McMahon is shaped by years of research with individuals connected to the wrestling industry. He also spoke about Bruno Sammartino as a figure he admires before delving into his opinion that McMahon, like Dr. Lecter, has a disturbing personality. The cannibalistic yet charming Lecter first appeared in 1986's Manhunter and later became widely recognized through Anthony Hopkins' portrayal in The Silence of the Lambs. Regardless, many people feel Vince McMahon is one of the worst human beings in existence, and that's unlikely to change anytime soon. Over the years, A&E have been responsible for a number of WWE documentaries, with projects like Biography WWE Legends and WWE Rivals to their name, among others. All of these shows have given more insight into the careers of WWE talent, and fans who can't get enough of such shows are in for a treat. Ahead of January's move to Netflix, WWE President Nick Khan recently discussed bringing in shows beyond Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and that now appears to be in the works. Recent Trademark developments have hinted at a brand new show, as on October 19th, WWE filed a trademark for WWE Legends and Future Greats, as well as WWE LFG. The filing hints at a variety of potential programs, including sports and entertainment content accessible through television, satellite, web-based applications, and mobile platforms. The description involves using the trademarks for a range of content, including live wrestling events, reality-based shows, and other sports-related programming. The terms can also be used for fan club services, online forums, and multimedia programs, which aligns with WWE's strategy of expanding its content over multiple platforms. WWE plans to produce even more documentaries focused on various superstars and aspects of wrestling, and we'll have to see when WWE Legends and Future Greats is eventually unveiled. Do you believe WWE debuting another show will prove beneficial for the company in the long run? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Earlier this year, WWE hosted its Elimination Chamber event in Perth, Australia, and WWE is likely to be heading back to the country in the second half of 2025. Elimination Chamber Perth in February proved to be a huge success, and according to the Sunday Times, West Australian, WWE and the Cook government are already in negotiations. Those talks could see a potential return to Perth next year, and while the government has been cautious about revealing dates, the expectation is that it happen in the second half of 2025. It's not confirmed whether this would be another premium live event or something different, and fans would have to wait until closer to this time window to learn more. Tourism Minister Rita Saffioti mentioned that the government is consistently seeking unique and exclusive events to attract visitors and spoke of the popularity of WWE and UFC shows. These events, according to Saffioti, have proven effective in drawing large audiences to the region, and that could happen once again next year in Perth. Considering WWE's good relationship with Australia, fans can expect a major event in the land down under soon enough as the promotion continues to expand its events past the US. On the latest Smackdown, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill were ringside as Lash Legend defeated Piper Niven in the NXT Star's singles debut on the Blue brand. Legend made quick work of Niven while Jakara Jackson kept Chelsea Green at bay, but things took a tense turn after SmackDown was finished. On the SmackDown Lowdown, Legend and Jackson talked some trash about Cargill and Belair when the reigning WWE Women's Tag Team Champions walked in. This led to a heated exchange, and Cargill almost came to blows with Lash Legend, and expect a match between these two teams, likely for the tag titles, sooner rather than later. The last time Keith Lee competed for AEW was at the Holiday Bash edition of Collision on December 23rd, where the former NXT champion picked up a win over Brian Cage. Lee competed just 17 times for AEW in 2023, which is 17 more than he's done in 2024, and questions remain about his status in Tony Khan's company. On Twitter, Lee said he doesn't see all the supportive messages from fans, but he has seen many and took the time to say thank you to his fans. The Limitless One added that we're not done and encouraged his fans to hang in there like he is, as he promised that the time will come, before ending on a reminder to vote. Lee did not address the reason for his absence, but Fightful Select reported earlier this month that he is yet to be cleared to compete due to an undisclosed medical issue. It remains to be seen when Keith Lee will wrestle again, but what do you make of his absence? Share your thoughts down in the comments. It was at Revolution 2024 that Sting retired from in-ring competition, undefeated in AEW, and while he's no longer competing, the icon is still around. Speaking to kayfabe friends, Sting shared that he has signed a new deal with AEW, saying it isn't to wrestle, but it is a licensing deal and akin to a WWE Legends deal. This deal will see Sting do appearances sporadically, and while he didn't say how long exactly this agreement is for, he described it as a multi-year deal with the company. During the podcast, Sting also spoke about his time with WWE, as it was at Night of Champions 2015 that his career seemingly ended during a match with Seth Rollins. During his Hall of Fame induction in 2016, Sting announced his retirement, and on the podcast said that Vince McMahon really wanted the icon to retire under his umbrella. I did leave it open-ended pretty much. I didn't want to retire at that time. It was kind of a mutual deal with WWE at that time. Vince wanted me to retire under his umbrella, and at that time, I was okay with that. Now, Sting has retired from wrestling, but it was done the way he wanted, but don't count out more appearances from the icon, now with his new deal with AEW. And we're ending with this week's AEW Dynamite, where Sammy Guevara will take on Shelton Benjamin in what is bound to be an exciting contest between two athletically gifted stars. For the Spanish God, this is quite the dream match, and one that has been in the works for a very long time. On Twitter, Guevara reacted to news of the match by posting a photo of himself and Shelton from a meet and greet back when Guevara was just a fan. This will be Guevara's first match back, as he's been cleared to compete following a concussion earlier this month. And who do you expect to win? Give your prediction down in the comments.